Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I rise to speak on the 2016 Drug Harm Minimisation Summit, which was hosted by the Cross-Party Harm Minimisation Roundtable of New South Wales parliamentarians on the 11th of August in the Jubilee Room of the New South Wales Parliament. Over 100 experts, doctors, legal professionals and community representatives participated in the forum, as well as MPs from across the political spectrum during the day. It was 1999 that this place hosted the formal government-endorsed drug summit over a 5-day period that heard compelling evidence from professionals in health, as well as policymakers, drug users and families impacted by drug abuse. That summit gave rise to the Life-Saving Medically Supervised Injecting Centre, the MSIC, in Kings Cross. It also gave hope to those at the health and legal edge of drug issues that New South Wales will be more innovative and progressive in its approach to dealing with drugs in our society. It can be said and reported from the conference that most attendees were disappointed that this had not happened in that time. We all recognise that the issues of drugs and their use in our society are complex and, frankly, a perennial one. There is no silver bullet to the complexities involved, but we felt it is our duty as members of Parliament to open up the policy discussion. As a result, 4 parliamentarians from across the spectrum have formed the New South Wales Cross-Party Harm Minimisation Roundtable, being Maureen Faruqi, our colleague here, MLC for the Greens, Alex Greenwich MP, the Independent Member for Sydney, and Joe Halen MP, the Labor Member for Summer Hills, and myself as the Liberal Party backbencher. And I want to acknowledge the cooperation and the respectful way in which we have worked together over the past few months, and no doubt will do so going forward. Our decision to form the group and hold this summit at Parliament raised a few eyebrows, but it shouldn't. Members of Parliament should be encouraged and indeed supported to engage openly in complex issues confronting our communities. The best time to explore policy areas is outside of the heated debate of legislation. Issues like drugs, like mental health, homelessness, domestic violence and many others should and often do rise above the din of parliamentary battles and achieve stronger cross-party support. And I want to acknowledge the role of the modern upper house committee system that fulfils this purpose today. The forum was an important opportunity to share information and experiences and to renew the debate around harm minimisation and drug law reform in the New South Wales Parliament, especially given the renewed debate around the MSIC, the advent of ice and synthetic drugs and the tragically several unnecessary deaths at dance events over the past year or so. The feedback on the summit has been overwhelmingly positive. It was an important moment in a conversation that we need to keep having as parliamentarians. I want to acknowledge the presenters who addressed 3 sessions. Session 1, called The Historical Context, addressed by former Premier Bob Carr, former Opposition Leader John Brogden AM and the founding director of the MSIC, Dr Ingrid van Beek AM. Bob Carr and John Brogden focused on their history for the drug summit, remembering it was born of a heated election campaign and a typically sustained tabloid attack. The drug summit's key recommendation came to Parliament in 2003, and John Brogden, as leader, granted the Liberals a conscience vote on this matter, and he was one of 4 opposition members to vote with the Labor government of the day to trial a supervised injecting centre at the Cross. Session 2, titled Where We Are Now, was addressed by Dr Marianne Jauncey. She's the current director of the MSIC in Kings Cross. Mr Nicholas Cowdery, the former Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr Mary Ellen Harrod, CEO of New South Wales Users and the AIDS Association, and Dr Nardine Ezard, who is the Co-Joint Associate Professor, St Vincent's Clinical School, Clinical Director and St Vincent's Alcohol and Drug Services. In Session 3, Harm Minimisation Approaches, was addressed by Dr Alex Wodak, President of the Australian Drug Law Reform Foundation, Dr Monica Barrett, National Drug and Alcohol Research Centre, and Dr David Caldecott, Emergency Consultant at the Emergency Department of the Calvary Hospital in Canberra and a Senior Lecturer in Faculty of Medicine at the Australian National University, and finally by Ms Karen Price, who's the Deputy CEO of ACON, the AIDS Council of New South Wales. The keynote address was by the distinguished Australian former High Court Judge, Justice Michael Kirby AC CMG. Kirby focused on the international context of the so-called war on drugs, highlighting the huge resources of police and courts diverted into these policies around the globe, and those jurisdictions like Portugal and the Czech Republic, where the government has decriminalised personal possession of certain drugs. And just to be clear, he was not talking about legalisation of drugs, just decriminalisation of personal possession. The day concluded with a consensus calling on the Premier and the Opposition Leader to replicate the 1999 Drug Summit by hosting another one at Parliament House. And I echo that call, Mr Deputy President. Secondly, there was a consensus that issues of harm minimisation, including some specific recommendations, and more broadly the decriminalisation of personal possession of certain drugs, be explored further. With approximately half the population admitting to taking illegal drugs at some time in their lives, this issue will not go away easily. It's important as parliamentarians that we have the ongoing conversation, a conversation where all voices can participate. And I want to acknowledge that the summit with a health focus did not include law enforcement or prohibitionists, and they have a legitimate voice in this debate. Finally, members of the public and interested to learn more can go to Facebook and search Harm Minimisation Roundtable, which will easily bring up the Facebook page. and you can watch the video of the speeches. I want to thank the staff of the Members of Parliament for the work they did behind the scenes on making this a successful summit.